Hi, this is Margo. This is Monday evening, June the 10th, 2019, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're going to look at some sulfur dioxide tonight, especially this huge release down here by Sumatra. This is from when Mount Sinabung exploded. It's a volcano that exploded yesterday, and here's where it shows up on cams with a huge release of sulfur dioxide. And this is total column. It went straight up, total column, and this is from today, and it did not show up on cams until today because the blast went up so far up into the atmosphere and then spread out, and it shows up on total column and on 500 HPA pretty good. So we're going to be looking at the Volcano Discovery channel and our website and look at that report, and then we're going to look at earthquakes. So here's another view of it. This is the East Tropic view that I have pulled up so that we can get a closer picture of this here, and it's kind of hard to see because of the colors are covering up the countries. But just to get you oriented, here's Africa over here. Here's China, and here's India here. This is Java here. This is Sumatra here. This is Malaysia coming down, and where you see this release at this little tippy point in Malaysia, that's where Singapore is. So it was a huge release, and you can see the ripples around it from the force that was released. So it was like a shock wave that went out. And now if we change it to 500 HPA, this is about halfway up into the atmosphere. This is the reading. This is about 18,000 feet up. And so we can see that it was darkest right here, and we can see it as a blast. This is what a volcano explosion looks like on the sulfur dioxide from cams. Now, there are other releases that I see where they come out and look more like an exclamation point, and that denotes coming release, like for an earthquake. But this is more, now I'm learning what these different releases represent, and this is the release of a volcano where it's kind of circular, and with the large blast it does send out these concentric circles, like throwing a pebble in a pond and the water ripples and it goes all the way around. So I think that's just amazing to see that like that. And now here's Volcano Discovery website, and here's the their write-up about the eruption news and activity updates. Large explosion, ash to 55,000 feet or 16.7 kilometers, pyroclastic flows. Now this came out yesterday. They published this yesterday, June the 9th at 12:41 p.m. So here's a picture of it. That would freak me out. And it says eruption of Sinabung on June the 9th, 2019. Once again, a very powerful explosion has occurred at around 9:30 UTC today, sending an ash column high into the atmosphere and producing large pyroclastic flows. According to the latest report from Darwin Vac, the eruption is continuing with an ash plume rising to 9 kilometers or 30,000 feet. But it went higher than that, because if you go, here's their advisory from yesterday: ongoing high-level eruption. This is the volcanic ash advisory for Sinabung. There it is on the map. You can see it blowing up there. And this was at 9:44 UTC. Oh, that's not the advisory that I wanted. There was another one that came out later yesterday, and it showed that the ash plume to 44,000 feet. I don't know where that is now. Anyway, you get the idea. Let's just see. No, that's alright. I was thinking I might find it. Maybe they changed it. Anyway, so that's what's going on at Sinabung. I'm going to pause and see if I can find it on NASA Worldview. I'll be right back. I'm back. I just took a peek at NASA Worldview, and it's pretty cloudy. It's the same picture as what they have here, pretty much. And then they show that this is the volcano here. So, yeah, you can't really tell because there are so many clouds there. But if you want to see what it looks like on Google Earth, so here it is. Here is Sumatra, and it's up at this northern end down here, and the landmark is this Lake Toba, and then you go up just pretty much a straight line, kind of northwest from the north of the lake, and it's right here. And there it is. That's what it looks like. It's amazing, isn't it? So, let's move on now. Let's go to, first of all, I'm going to start with this highly unusual earthquake. Well, we had a lot of earthquakes in the last 24 hours, and they're still coming in. We've got 322 earthquakes of all magnitudes in the last 24 hours here on USGS. But this one over here, everyone's talking about it. They're calling it a near East Lake, Ohio. It was actually in Lake Erie, just off the shore of the coast near East Lake. Cleveland is right down here. That's the main city that's near there. It was a 4.0. This came in at 7:50 a.m. today, 5 kilometers deep. And that time I gave you was Pacific time, so that would have been 10:50 Pacific time, or 9:50 Central Time. I think they're on, 10:50 Eastern Time. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired tonight. And 9:50, that would have been 9:50 Central Time. I think that's their time zone. I'm not for sure. And here it is on volcano discovery. There are lots of I felt it reports if you want to read any of those. I would think that that's really not big enough to do damage, and considering it was in the lake, people might have felt some shaking, but oh, listen to this one. But it wasn't big enough to do a lot of damage. Here's someone from home by the lake, Euclid, Ohio. They had severe shaking. They said there was a loud noise, and suddenly my solid brick house was shaking so severely I thought it was coming out of the ground. I first thought my HVAC unit exploded. It was surreal. Well, yeah, brick house is the worst kind to be in an earthquake. Brick or cinder block, because when those bricks start falling in, that's disastrous. It's better to be in a wood structure if you can. Here's someone they were 141 kilometers north from the epicenter. They had very weak shaking. This person says, I was working at my computer when my computer desk suddenly shook. I recognized it as an earthquake tremor this morning at 10:52 a.m., June 19th, 2019. Location, 11th floor apartment. And he gives the coordinates and everything. Everything on my computer table shook back and forth for about 3 to 4 seconds or so. I immediately wrote down the time. My computer table is with each of the 4 legs set on a TriCaster wheels. So there's that. Here's John May High School. They had weak shaking, and this person says, I was in class and the ceiling mounted projector shook and rocked a little. Thompson, Ohio, corner of Thompson and Short Streets, light shaking. I noticed it, and so did my cat, enough that I immediately tried to find online if we just had an earthquake, and so on. So there are lots and lots of reports because we don't normally see 4.0s there, but it is on the edge of the North American craton, so we shouldn't be surprised, but it's just a place that we don't see earthquakes very often. So that's the big excitement for Ohio today. So see, they're coming in. They're still coming in. Look at all these red dots. Looks like Christmas tree lights. So we got 322 earthquakes. Of those, 42 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So that's a huge number that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So it's going to take me a while to do this report. So that's why we're not doing any other news articles tonight. Because this is going to take plenty of time. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, this. I'll be done by the time this comes off the map. But just in case, this is another very important earthquake. This happened last night right after I finished recording my show. It was a 3.5 at Oildale, California. And it's called Oildale for a reason. And this came in at 7:41 p.m. last night, and it was a 3.5 magnitude earthquake. And they had some more in that same area. It's right here. They've had, counting this little one to the right, they've had 4 there. So I'll go ahead and call them off. A 3.5 at 7:41 last night, 1.7 at 8:20 last night, 1.5 at 10:29 last night, and then there was a 1.5 at Arvin, California, which is just a little bit to the east, and that came in at 10:39 this morning. So things are really shaking. So got a lot going on. So there's that. So that's all of them that are about to come off the map. So I'd like to start up here in the North Atlantic. We saw an earthquake up here almost at this exact same location yesterday, and now we have another one here today. It's a 4.2. They're calling it near Olankenbyen, Svalbard, and Jan Mayen. Now Jan Mayen is a little tiny island right there. And so the earthquake was not very far from that little tiny island. And here's Iceland, and then Svalbard is up here, and that's where the seed vault is located. And so I'd say Jan Mayen is about halfway, not quite halfway, between Iceland and Svalbard, but it's a good measuring point. But that was a 4.2, and it came in at 4 o'clock this afternoon, right on the red line. And these red lines are where the tectonic plates meet. So this is the North American plate, and it goes up and around over here and over here, and then this is the Euro-Asian plate that comes up and comes up to the North Pole and then back down, cutting through Russia. So anywhere you have those red lines, that's where you're going to see the most earthquakes. So let's come on down. Let's get this one here in North Africa. We don't see them here very often either. It was in Algeria, right on this red line. 4.1 near Masila, Algeria. This came in at 6:26 this morning. All these times I'm telling you are Pacific time because that's my time zone. So that was right on the edge of that Eurasian plate. Then here's another one in the Atlantic, well, 2. They're stacked up here in the Atlantic, a 4.9 that came in at 2:38 this morning. And then at 2:44, just a few minutes later, was a 4.8. And this is on this northern mid-Atlantic ridge, right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right on this red line. And this is a little bit east of the northern tip of South America, the northern end. And then we had one down at the southern part, right down here, of 4.9 near Bristol Island, South Sandwich Islands, and this came in at 6:44 this morning. What time were these others? 2:44, okay. Anyway, so this is the Atlantic, the Antarctic plate, and so it's right down here near the Arctic. So this is almost near the Antarctic. I'm so tongue-tied tonight. I'm not feeling well, so I'll do my best to get through this. So that's considered almost an Antarctic earthquake, with it being right down there. So now let's move across to South America. Here's a 4.6 near Salamanca, Chile at 8:17 last night. A 4.8 near Calama, Chile at 10:27 last night. This one was 105 kilometers deep. Here's one off the coast of El Salvador. 4.9 near El Triunfo, El Salvador. Puerto El Triunfo, El Salvador at 2:12 this morning. Now let's come across the Pacific and start down here in Tonga. Here's a 4.8 near Naifu, Tonga at 12:17 this afternoon. Here's a 4.9 near Lambasa, Fiji at 1:25 this afternoon. Here's a 5.0 near Lakatoro, Vanuatu at 7:43 this morning, 168 kilometers deep. Here's a 5.5 near Tual, Indonesia at 9:59 this morning, 56 kilometers deep. It's showing the little wave like maybe there was a tsunami, but I've already checked the tsunami things and there wasn't one. But we can check and see. There were only two reports that came out, and they were for one at Puerto Rico and one in Alaska, and when you click on them they say no tsunami threat. So that's all we've had from today. So but that was big, and it was in the ocean, so it probably didn't do any damage to this little island here, but it would have done damage if it had been on the island. Definitely, that would be big enough to do damage. So right down here is Sumatra, and right up here, here's Tobu Lake. Right up here is where Mount Sinabung is, and so we saw that sulfur dioxide release. It basically burst up from here and went straight up, and then we saw it like right next to Sumatra on cams there. Next, now look at all these 5.0s and higher that we've got. We've got a 5.4 near Pagan, Northern Mariana Islands at 10:14 this morning. Then up here, just off the coast of Japan, we've got two. Here was a 4.5 near Ofunatu at 6:12 this morning, and a 4.6 near Ishinomaki at 6:21 tonight. See, that was not very far from the land, but that was small. That was not big enough to do damage. And water does buffer the earthquakes, so it doesn't do as much shaking. Here's a 4.9 near Shikotan, Russia at 10:18 this morning in the ocean. And I think that's all of our international earthquakes. Let's go back out. Okay, this one is part of Russia territory, but it's really part of this Aleutian Island chain. But this is the reporting station is Russia. So this was at this western end of the Aleutian Island chain next to Kamchatka. It was a 4.8 near Nikolskoye, Russia at 2 o'clock this morning. So now let's go to all magnitudes. Let's go down here to Hawaii first. We're showing only 2, and they're stacked up here in the ocean. A 2.4 that came in at 11:37 last night, and then a 2.8 that came in at 3:59 this morning. So those are getting up there, but they're in the ocean. So we got a reprieve on Hawaii today. Normally we see a few on the mainland there, but none today. Now let's move on over to the Caribbean. What have we got here? We've got a cluster going on. We've got 17 here. So I want to look at this cluster by itself. So we've got 12 in this cluster just to the north of the Dominican Republic. And these are good size. I mean, here's a 4.3. That's the highest one. Highest magnitude. That one came in at 11:48. I'm going to call these off. So there was the 4.3, 2.7, 2.9, 2.8, 3.0, 3.2, 2.3, 2.7, 3.0, 3.0, 2.8, and 2.8. So high 2s, 3s, and then a 4.3. So that's an uptick in the number and the magnitude. And look at how they're all just clustered right there, just north of this east end of the Dominican Republic. And then let's isolate Puerto Rico's here. We've got 5 here around Puerto Rico, 1.8, 1.8, 2.0, 2.1, and 2.3. So none of those are enough to do damage, and especially being in the water. And this little one, this 1.8, is not enough to do damage. And that looks like that was on land. You wouldn't even feel that probably. So that's definitely showing movement. Now let's go on up to Alaska. So I'll take that Russia one off the map, although I think it should be counted with Alaska because it's part of the Aleutian Island chain, but whatever. We've got plenty of earthquakes without that one. We've got 98 here today. Now Alaska averages between 50 and 100 earthquakes a day. So of those 98, we've got 8 that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So let's just start calling them off. 2.7 Kodiak, 3.8 Anchor Point, that's at Redoubt Volcano, 4.1 Nikolskoye, 2.5 Valdez, 3.0 Koktovik, 4.0 Chirikov Island, 2.5 Haines, and 2.5 Tok, Alaska. So all of these islands these Aleutian Islands are volcanic. So you've got a whole combo plate going on here with earthquakes and old dormant volcanoes, and some of them are starting to kind of come back to life. And on cams we also see sulfur dioxide releasing from down here a lot. So there's that. Look at this one. Here's a 1.7 near Nome. It's right there in the Bering Sea. Here's another one on the edge. It's on the land, a 2.0 near Noatak. Let's see what's going on at Kobuk. They've got 15 here today, so that's coming back. That number is coming back up. So they've got mining going on there. Those are ones and under. Those aren't huge. And then we've got a few more up here in the northern part. Look at the, okay, that was Kobuk. And then they're coming down through the state, and we're seeing more clustering right down here, right around Redoubt Volcano, and here's Iliamna, and oh, okay, Redoubt, I guess it's up here. This is Iliamna Volcano, right there, and then Redoubt is right up here. So look, they're right around the volcano. So that one could be coming back to life too. And one of those high ones, this 3.8 or higher magnitude ones, was right there. So here's Anchorage. They've got a few here today. A 2.0, that's the biggest. Big lake. So those are pretty small. All those others are under 2.5. So, but we're seeing them. Here's some more in the little armpit here. Now let's come on down to the lower 48. And we already looked at this 4.0 near Cleveland in Lake Erie, and I saw Dutch Sense's report on this, and he showed fracking, oil operations on the coast here, or near the coast, very close here. So he believes this was as a result of fracking and oil drilling operations, which I don't doubt, because every time you drill into Mother Earth, it creates a weak spot and a hole. It's a hole. You drill in there 1,000 feet, there's a hole. Not only are they putting stuff in, but guess what? Stuff can come out. And that's what happens. Pressure is released. And not only are they having an earthquake, but there are all kinds of gases that are released, like sulfur dioxide and methane and carbon dioxide. Look at this. Look at this. Here's one right on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. Excuse me. Here is a 2.3. They're calling it near Reed Creek, Georgia, but it's just to the west of Anderson, South Carolina. Isn't that interesting? 2.3. This came in at 7:51 last night. Very shallow, 0.1 kilometer depth. So it was right there. I know that area very well. Anyway. They don't hardly ever. I've never just, I don't know if they've never had earthquakes there, but since I've been reporting since last December, I've not seen one there. That's been my experience. But you can have an earthquake anywhere. Here's a 2.2 near Loretto, Tennessee at 4:40 this morning. Now moving back over to Oklahoma, the fracking capital of the world practically. We've got 7 here, and they're kind of stacked up, some of them. 1.6, 1.6, 1.6, 1.7, 1.9, 1.2, and a 0.5. So we still got that going on. Now, remember Dove Creek? It's back. They had a 2.5 at Dove Creek, Colorado at 11:34 this morning. And down here, here's a little one in northern Arizona, a 1.0 near Colorado City, Arizona. This came in at 2:29 this morning. Then up here in Utah was a 1.2 near Salina at 7:20 this morning. Next, coming up into the Yellowstone region. Alright, we have 5 here today. I'll call them off. 1.7 Manhattan, 1.4 Soda Springs, 1.7 Soda Springs, 1.4 Soda Springs, and a 1.0 at Lima. So Soda Springs got the most. Soda Springs, Idaho. Now coming on over to the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing an explosion, a 1.3 magnitude explosion near Port Angeles, Washington at 11:58 this morning. And so we see the earthquake makers are back at work. Here's the tremor map for this Northwest Pacific for yesterday, showing, let's refresh, 144, and the majority of them are up here west of the Seattle area, and then down here, where is this? Near Eugene, Oregon. right near Eugene. So the tremors are what happen before they become earthquakes, before it makes an earthquake. Here's a 2.2 magnitude explosion near Highland, Washington at 12:34 this afternoon. Now let's call off the earthquakes, and 0 magnitude at Amboy, that's Mount St. Helens. Here's a 0.8 at Buckley, a 0.2 Amboy, and a 0.5 Amboy. So they're small, but it's showing movement. And looks like two of these are right in the crater, and this one's on the side. That's a huge volcano. And it exploded in, I think it was 1980. Alright, so coming down into Northern California and Nevada, we have this 2.0 that happened at Petrolia at 1:50 this morning. See, it's in the ocean there, but it's right at that little tippy point. This is the fulcrum point where the San Andreas fault line comes up and it meets with this Cascadia subduction zone and this Juan de Fuca plate. So there's a lot of stress here, and so I'm also seeing, like when we have earthquakes here, we also have earthquakes straight across. They go straight across, and this is at Pyramid Lake in Nevada, and we've had two here. It also runs straight across through Lake, that line of the fulcrum point moves straight across Lake Almanor and Honey Lake. Oh, and by the way, Honey Lake is not a lake. It's like a dry bed lake. There's not much water there. I've been there. But it shows blue like it's a lake, but it's really not. Unless they've gotten a lot of rain to fill it up. That could have happened. Anyway. So, also in Northern California was this 1.9 at Lake Pillsbury. Here's Chico, here's Oroville, here's Lake Almanor, here's Redding, and here's Shasta Lake. Here's Mount Shasta. So we're following all of these because these have full reservoirs of water. That if an earthquake happened near any of these, it could set off some stuff. It could set something off. So let's start up here, north of Pyramid Lake, and this is actually this is in is this in Smoke Creek? Anyway, so it's north of Pyramid Lake in the mountains there, and it's a 1.5 that came in at 5:44 this morning, and then this one in the lake, a 0.5 came in at 2:04 this morning. Then down here in the Reno area, we've got 3 near Truckee of 0.1, 0.2, and 0.5. Those are small, but they're in the mountains there. And then here in the Mount Rose area was a 0.6 and a 0.6. And then down here by Carson City was a 0 magnitude south-southwest of Carson City. That's in the mountains as you're going up to Lake Tahoe. It's right by the highway there. I'm going to go ahead and get this one while we're here. Here's a 0.9 near Gardnerville. Here's a 0.7 near Fallon, northwest of Fallon. Here's a 0.8 near Urington. So Okay, so here's the Hawthorne area. Those are small. So let's just look at this viewing area here. There are 14. The highest one, okay, or one of the larger ones, there's a 1.5 at 1.4 at Gabbs, 1.1 Mammoth Lakes. That's on my map here. I didn't mean to get Mammoth Lakes on there. Anyway, that's the way it goes. Let's get them off. So there's 8 now without Mammoth Lakes. And then coming down into southern Nevada, we're seeing an uptick today. Here's 17. Look at Alamo. Here's a 2.2. Now remember, Alamo didn't have any here yesterday, but now everyone's back at work. So I think it's something they're doing underground there. It's part of their underground installation. It's my thought. It's just a thought. I don't know. I don't have any proof. So the highest was that 2.2. Then these are 1s and so forth. So now let's come up to Mammoth Lake. And we've got 10 here today. And we've got a 2.1. That's the highest one near West Bishop. The rest are under 1s and under. Now coming down into the Coso Junction area, we've got 8 here today. These are 1s and under. We've got a double explosion. We've got an explosion and a quarry blast. Okay. The first one was this 1.6 explosion near Sandy Valley, Nevada. That's the reporting station, but it's in California. That happened at 12:15 this afternoon at surface level. And then there was a 2.3 magnitude quarry blast near Primm, Nevada, but it's right next to the explosion in California at 12:21 this afternoon. So they had a double blast. One wasn't enough, so they were really blasting away. To have 2 blasts and to have one of them at 2.3 magnitude, that is really high. And that will cause earthquakes. Definitely. So we showed those. Alright, here's a 0.5 at Ridgecrest. 1.5 Arvin. Look at this little cluster. We've got this is the Oildale cluster. Okay. So there's the Oildale cluster that we already went over, and Arvin. So that happened. That started last night at 8:20. Now let's come on down to Southern California and Baja. We've got 2 in Baja right on the red line, a 1.9 and a 2.3 near Delta. Here's 2 right on the state line or the country line, a 1.3 and a 1.2 near Progresso. Here's a 1.2 Westmoreland. So in Southern California today, We're seeing 55. So that's, the number is going down. But let's look at this. Here's a 3.0 at Anza. This is in that Kauai area where we see a lot of clustering. So that's an uptick. That is an uptick in the magnitude. Then the rest are under ones. Looks like they're here in the Glen Avon region. We've got 19 here today, so that's going down. Like I said yesterday, when you bring attention to an area, it seems to kind of dissipate after a while. That's that 3.0 we just looked at. They catch on and they say, oh, we shouldn't be doing that right now. People are looking. Here's a 1.0. So nothing over here by the La Brea tar pits. See? That calmed down. Here's coming up the San Andreas fault line, a 1.7 Pinnacles, 1.4 Pinnacles, 2.1 Tres Pinos, and a 2.7 Tres Pinos. Those are getting up there, and a 1.1 San Juan Bautista. Now near San Jose there was a 0.8, and here's a 1.3 Quarry Blast at Loyola, and here's a 1.6 at Bay Point, and at the geysers we've got 41 here today. So these are smaller. These are like ones and under. But it's an uptick in the number. Here's one of the larger ones. That's a 1.7. But they're coming in. See the red ones? That means that those are new. And here's that 1.9 Lake Pillsbury. Where's the lake? Oh, it's down here. It's not really that close to it. So let's zoom out and see what else we need to look at. Okay, we've got some new ones, it looks like. Let's go back to 2.5 magnitude or higher. It looks like we've got a 4.3 near Sakura, Japan. Look, it's, oh my gosh. I mean, it's probably not going to do damage, but it's on the mainland, and it's, here's Tokyo. It's not that far from Tokyo. Here's Sakura. This came in at 6:59 tonight, 69 kilometers deep. And then did we see that one? Okay, we saw the 4.3. Yeah, we saw... I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, we saw those. And then here's a new one. A 3.1 up here just happened at Old Iliamna at 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 the volcano. That just came in at 7:38. So, and they just keep coming in. Look at that. Glen Avon has had a couple. That 3.1 Old Iliamna. So it's right there. Look, it was on land. So things are definitely upticking. And here's a 1.3 on Oktuvik Pass, Alaska. That just came in too. So I'm going to sign off. So I recommend everyone get your spiritual houses in order, because I do believe time is very short and we don't have much time left here. So until next time, God bless each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Go in peace. Good night.